ऑलराइट, लेट्स गेट स्टार्टेड। जय हिंद दोस्तों। मैं आशा करता हूं आप अपनी सिविल सर्विस एग्जामिनेशन की तैयारी जोरों शोरों से कर रहे हैं। मैं आपका होस्ट नमन। आई वेलकम यू ऑल टू दिस लेक्चर नंबर 40 ऑन कार्ल मार्क्स। एंड टुडे वी आर गोइंग टू डिस्कस वन ऑफ द वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ मार्क्स, दैट इज हिस्टोरिकल मटेरियलिज्म। बट ये कॉन्सेप्ट को स्टार्ट करने से पहले मैं आप सबको एक बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग कहानी सुनाने जा रहा हूं। आप सब इमेजिन करिए एक ऐसा सोसाइटी जिसमें दो क्लास डोमिनेंट क्लास हो। एक कैपिटलिस्ट क्लास जो कि हैव क्लास है, जिसके पास ओनरशिप है सारे रिसोर्सेज के, मेंस ऑफ प्रोडक्शन के। एंड दूसरी है हैव नॉट्स क्लास और प्रोलिटेरिएट क्लास, जैसे जैसे कि मार्क्स ने बताया है। और वर्किंग क्लास जो हम आम भाषा में समझ सकते हैं, जिसके पास ओनरशिप ऑफ रिसोर्सेज नहीं है, वो सिर्फ काम करके अपनी जिंदगी का गुजारा करते हैं। इन दोनों डोमिनेंट क्लास के बीच में एक पावर टसल चल रहा है। क्यों? क्योंकि दोनों ओनरशिप चाहते हैं मीन्स ऑफ प्रोडक्शन के ऊपर में। इस सोसाइटी में जो कैपिटलिस्ट क्लास है वो प्रोलिटेरिएट क्लास और वर्किंग क्लास को एक्सप्लॉइट करता है। क्यों? अपने प्रॉफिट्स इंक्रीज करने के लिए। क्या होता है इस दौरान ऐसा होता है जब एक्सप्लॉइटेटिव नेचर ऑफ कैपिटलिस्ट क्लास बहुत बढ़ जाती है, तो जो वर्किंग क्लास है उनके अंदर एक क्लास कॉन्शियस उभर के आता है। वो अपने प्रॉब्लम्स को रियलाइज करते हैं एंड मार्क्स के आइडिया के जरिए वो एक रिवॉल्यूशनरी टेंडेंसी की ओर अपने कदम बढ़ाते हैं। वो अपने हक के लिए लड़ते हैं, जिसके एक इगालिटेरियन सोसाइटी डेवलप हो सके, जिससे एक इक्विटेबल डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ मीन्स ऑफ प्रोडक्शन हो सके। जी हाँ दोस्तों, ये ही कहानी है जो मार्क्स कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ हिस्टोरिकल मटेरियलिज्म को दर्शाता है। यहां पे जो पहला डोमिनेंट क्लास था, दैट इज कैपिटलिस्ट क्लास। अगर मार्क्स के टर्म्स में बात करूं तो बुर्जुआसी क्लास था थीसिस। आम भाषा में व्हाट इज द लिटरल टर्म ऑफ द वर्ड थीसिस? थीसिस का मतलब यह होता है दोस्तों, जो सोसाइटी में एक डोमिनेंट फैक्टर हो, जो सोसाइटी में एक डोमिनेंट आइडियोलॉजी हो। एंड मार्क्स के टाइम में वो आइडियोलॉजी थी कैपिटलिस्ट क्लास। वो आइडियोलॉजी थी द डोमिनेंस ऑफ बुर्जुआसी क्लास ओवर द प्रोलिटेरिएट क्लास, एक्सप्लॉइटेशन। यहीं से निकल के आया एंटीथीसिस। एंटीथीसिस क्या थी? एंटीथीसिस थी काउंटर आर्ग्यूमेंट, जो कि वर्किंग क्लास की थी। उनके क्लास कॉन्शियसनेस के कारण वो समझ पा रहे थे उनकी परेशानी क्या है, जिसके कारण एक सिंथेसिस डेवलप हुआ। ये सिंथेसिस क्या है? ये सिंथेसिस है एक बहुत इगैलिटेरियन सोसाइटी, जो कि मार्क्स अपने टर्म में कम्युनिज्म और सोशलिज्म की बात करते हैं। ये हुआ कैसे? ये हुआ रिवॉल्यूशन के कारण। तो चलिए शुरू करते हैं। बट शुरू करने से पहले मैं आज की लेक्चर की विजन आपको एक क्वेश्चन के थ्रू समझाना चाहता हूं। Have a look of this particular question and keep this particular question in your mind, because after attending this particular lecture you will be able to answer this particular question very effectively. So maintain your focus till the end of your lecture, because this is what will ensure your selection in UPSC examination. So the question here is, which of the following statement is not true regarding dialectics? And the four options are: it was given by Socrates, it represents rational debate, it can be represented by the equation that is thesis plus antithesis is equal to synthesis, and Marx rejected dialectical method. This was the first question. The second question is, which of the following statement is correct? Hegel considered history as dialectical movement of idea. Option B is Marx considered idea as false consciousness. Option C is Marx gave economic interpretation of history, and option D is all of the above. Just keep these questions in mind and watch the lecture till end, because again I will ask these two questions at the end of the lecture and I will check whether did you guys understand the concept comprehensively or not. All right, so let's get started. हम मार्क्स की कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ हिस्टोरिकल मटेरियलिज्म डिस्कस करने जा रहे हैं, बट उससे पहले जो बेसिस है इस थ्योरी की वो है डायलेक्टिक्स। सो हमें कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ डायलेक्टिक्स समझना बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट है. What is the dialectics? Dialectics is a concept given by Socrates. As we have discussed this particular concept in our very first lecture. If you guys haven't watched the series of lecture, I sincerely request you all to go and have a look at least few lectures. So dialectics is a method to understand the truth. How? Because Socrates believed that through rational dialogue or rational debate, truth can be achieved. It represents argument, counter argument to reach at the conclusion or synthesis in terms of Hegel. Arguments and counter arguments continue till final synthesis emerges. Dialectics can be represented through the equation that is thesis plus antithesis is equal to synthesis. This is what importance of debate is, people. Debate is not just a mere leisure activity, but it is a means to reach at the conclusion or the truth. He says, whatever is the thesis that is the prevailing notion in the society should always be subjected to the antithesis or the contradictory notion of that particular idea. What will be the benefit? We can ultimately reach at more productive conclusion. This is what Socrates believed. This is why we regard Socrates as father of philosophy. And this is also one of the philosophical instruments to reach at the conclusion. So, what was Hegel's dialectics? We have understood what was the simple concept of dialectics of Socrates. The same dialectics concept was taken by Friedrich Hegel, who was a teacher of Marx. And using this dialectical method, he propounded his theory of dialectical idealism. What is dialectical idealism? He said that in the evolution of history, in the course of history, idea is a major force behind that. The basic idea behind idealism is idea is prior. Idea that is the reason, that is mind, is prior to matter, is more important than matter. The idealist school like Plato, Hegel, and etc., they will give primacy to idea than the matter. On the other hand, the materialist like Marx, they will give primacy to matter. That matter came first, then came the idea. Matter or idea is a manifestation of matter. This is what a materialist will propound. But here, Hegel was an idealist for whom the idea was prior to the matter. And he said that idea is the primary force behind the movement of history. There is a constant evolution that is happening within us in the brain, which is causing history to change. अगर मैं आपको सिंपल एग्जांपल दूं जो इसके कॉन्सेप्ट को बहुत ही आसानी तरीके से आपको समझाएगा, तो वो कुछ ऐसा होगा. जस्ट इमेजिन करिए स्टेट ऑफ नेचर, राइट? जब आदि मानव अपने टाइम में रहते थे, वो कैसे अपनी प्रोसेस करते थे, कैसे अपनी सस्टेनेंस को एंश्योर करते थे? थ्रू हंटिंग एंड गैदरिंग, राइट? बट ग्रेजुअली क्या हुआ? उनका माइंड इवॉल्व हुआ, उन्होंने फायर की डिस्कवरी की, एंड आफ्टर डिस्कवरिंग द फायर दे हैव स्टार्टेड कुकिंग. नेक्स्ट इवोल्यूशन क्या आया? नेक्स्ट इवोल्यूशन आया इन द वेपन्स, इन द टूल्स. ऐसे ऐसे इवोल्यूशन होते होते आज वी आर इन द इरा ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी, वी आर इन द इरा ऑफ AI. एंड एज पर Hegel, this evolution in the brain, this evolution in the idea led to the movement of history or evolution, right? So this is what Hegel's idea of dialectical idealism is. Hegel has used the concept of dialectics to show the nature of movement of history. History is a movement of idea, that is what he said. He propounded the 3 laws of dialectics, or 3 laws which is causing the history to change. And what are the three laws? The first one is unity of opposite. What is unity of opposites? In all the things there exists its opposition. In all the things, if there is dark there is light, if there is black there is white, if there is down there is up, if there is left there is right, if there is negative there is positive. This is what unity of opposition is. Without one the other cannot exist. Hence in everything there exists its opposition, and opposition is the force of history. That oppositeness is what is causing history to move. The second is negation of negation. As per law of history, force negativity gets negated. What does it mean? When there is a conflict between the two opposites, the negative between the two gets eliminated or negated, which gives rise to a synthesis, a more higher quality of conclusion. This is the second law, which is negation of negation. The third is quantity changes into quality. What does it mean? Changes do not happen overnight, right? Changes do not happen overnight. अगर मैं आपको एक एग्जांपल दूं, जब आप इनिशियली यूपीएससी की प्रिपरेशन की तैयारी स्टार्ट करते हैं, आपको 7 से 8 घंटा बैठना बहुत मुश्किल लगता है, बट ग्रेजुअली क्या होता है, आप डेली 2 घंटे से स्टार्ट करते हैं, आप ग्रेजुअली इवॉल्व करते हैं 4 घंटे पे, 6 घंटे पे, 7 घंटे पे, 8 घंटे में। देन जब 1 साल 1.5 साल निकल जाता है एंड आप परसिस्टेंट होते हैं, तो आप इजीली 8 घंटे बैठ सकते हैं। प्लस द आइडिया बिहाइंड इट इज दैट योर क्वालिटी गेट्स इनहेंस्ड। जब आप 8 घंटे बैठ के सिंसियरली पढ़ते हैं, तो एट द एंड ऑफ द 1 year your understanding of the syllabus is much higher than what you had in the last 1 year. This is how the quantity is being changed into quality. Hegel propounded the idea that change do not happen overnight. It takes time. Similarly, history did not change overnight. It took time, or it took a millions of years to evolve. One do not become success overnight. It takes time to build that wealth or fame, right? This is what Hegel is saying. So first quantitative changes take place and it gives rise to qualitative change. It may appear new, but it is not entirely new. New has its root in the old. Once contradiction ends, movement ends, history ends. And if Hegel is expliciting the idea that if in any point of history this contradiction will end, the history will stop, the history will end. Right? This is what Hegel said. And that is not true. Why? Because history will always be in the process of movement, in the process of evolution. Right? So what are the 3 laws which Hegel propounded? It is basically the unity of opposites, the negation of negation, and quantity changes into quality. Why we are doing it? What is the utility or purpose of doing this? Because it is what Marx has taken from Hegel, his teacher, to propound his idea of what? His idea of historical materialism that we will learn. हम इसको ऐसे ही नहीं कर रहे हैं. There is a purpose, there is a TLU behind it. मार्क्स की कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ हिस्टोरिकल मटेरियलिज्म पढ़ने से पहले हमें हेगल्स की कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ डायलेक्टिक समझना बहुत ज़्यादा जरूरी है, क्योंकि दिस इज अ पेडेस्टल अपॉन विच द मार्क्स हैज बिल्ट हिज एडिफाइस ऑफ हिस्टोरिकल मटेरियलिज्म. मार्क्स बताते हैं कि कैसे एक समाज में जब कैपिटलिस्ट क्लास होती है जो मीन्स ऑफ प्रोडक्शन को ओन करता है, तो उसके ही अगेंस्ट एक प्रोलेटेरिएट और वर्किंग क्लास होती है जो कि एक्सप्लॉइटेड क्लास है, जो हैव नॉट्स क्लास है. right? This is what a basis of unity of opposite in Marx ideas of historical materialism. एंड उनके बीच में नेगेशन ऑफ नेगेशन होगा. जो भी नेगेटिव चीज बुर्जुआसी क्लास में है और कैपिटलिस्ट क्लास में है, एंड जो भी नेगेटिव चीज है प्रोलिटेरिएट क्लास में, वो नेगेट होगी. एंड अल्टीमेटली इट विल लीड टू अ सिंथेसिस और हायर फॉर्म ऑफ कंक्लूजन दैट विल बी मोर इगैलिटेरियन सोसाइटी वेयर मीन्स ऑफ प्रोडक्शन विल बी डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड equally among the people. This is what is the basis of Marx's idea of historical materialism, which has been influenced by Hegel's concept of dialectics. लोगों को यह कॉन्सेप्ट समझना बहुत कठिन लगता है, बट ये उतना मुश्किल है नहीं फ्रेंड्स. आप जस्ट इसकी एसेंस को समझिए, राइट? ये जिंदगी की सच्चाई है दैट देयर इज यूनिटी ऑफ अपोजिट्स दैट एग्जिस्ट इन दिस वर्ल्ड. जब दो यूनिटी ऑफ अपोजिट्स व्हेन दे कम इनटू अ टसल, जो भी इनके बीच में नेगेटिव चीजें हैं वो क्या होती है, वो एलिमिनेट हो जाती है, राइट? आप इसको कुछ ऐसे समझिए, जैसे मैं बोल रहा हूं एक आइडिया, राइट? लेट्स से मैं बोल रहा हूं कि डॉग्स आर नाइस एनिमल, राइट? डॉग्स आर वेरी वेरी एम्पैथेटिक एनिमल्स. बट जो मेरा एक फ्रेंड है वो मेरे को काउंटर आर्ग्यूमेंट में बोल रहा है कि नो, डॉग्स आर नॉट गुड, डॉग्स बाइट पीपल, राइट? ये दो अपोजिट आइडिया है. एक साइड में मैं बोल रहा हूं डॉग्स आर वेरी वेरी फ्रेंडली लविंग एनिमल्स, वेयर एज मेरा फ्रेंड है वो बोल रहा है कि नो, डॉग्स आर वेरी वेरी क्रूएल बाइटिंग एनिमल्स. इन दोनों के अंदर एक जो नेगेटिव चीजें होंगी वो निकल जाएगी. मेरे केस में नेगेटिव क्या था, मैं बहुत ज्यादा आइडियलिस्ट हो रहा हूं डॉग्स को लेके कि नो, डॉग्स आर वेरी वेरी फ्रेंडली लविंग पेट. तो मेरी आइडियलिस्टिक नोशन ये नेगेट हो जाएगी. कैसे? क्योंकि मैं मोर रैशनलिस्टिक व्यू समझूंगा कि नहीं, डॉग्स आर नाइस, बट इफ वी डू नॉट टेक केयर देन दे कैन बी क्रूएल एज वेल. एंड जो पॉइंट बी था दैट डॉग्स आर एंटायरली क्रूएल, the negative idea of it will also get eliminated, and he will also understand that no, dogs can be cruel if we pose them a threat, if we mistreat them. And what will be the synthesis or higher quality of conclusion? That yes, dogs are friendly loving animal, but if we mistreat them they can be cruel as well, right? This is what a negation of negation is leading to a more higher quality of conclusion or synthesis. ये पूरी कहानी है हेगल्स डायलेक्टिक्स की. मैं आशा करता हूं कि यू गाइस आर गेटिंग टू नो द कॉन्सेप्ट. बट जब मार्क्स हेगल्स की कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ डायलेक्टिक्स पढ़ते हैं तो ये उनको बहुत ज्यादा अजीब लगता है, ये उनको बहुत ज्यादा आइडियलिस्टिक लगता है. And hence he criticizes Hegel's concept of dialectics by saying that Hegel's dialectics is standing on its head. Hegel अपने सर पे खड़े हैं. It needs to be turned upside down. उन्हें उनके पैरों में खड़ा करना पड़ेगा so that he can see the real problems in the world. He can see that no, it is not the idea which drives the history. It is the matter which drives the history. Why? Because it is matter which comes to existence first, then the idea. इंसान का शरीर पहले बना, then the brain, right? And here enters the Marx, who says or who propounds the idea of primacy of matter over idea. For him, the materialist aspect of world will be primary than the ideal notion of this world. For him, the idea of matter, like resources, like wealth, and etc., will be more important than idea, consciousness, mind, regions, and etc. Why? Because him the idea or reasons were just the false consciousness. Right? So this is how he criticizes Hegel and he propounds his theory of historical materialism. यहां से रियल स्टोरी शुरू होती थी. इससे पहले जो हमने किया that was the प्रीफेस. how Marx developed his idea of historical materialism. So first and foremost, जो मेरे सर के ऊपर आप ये किताब देख पा रहे हैं, दैट इज अ कंट्रीब्यूशन टू द क्रिटिक ऑफ पॉलिटिकल इकोनॉमी, ये आइडिया ऑफ हिस्टोरिकल मटेरियलिज्म इस किताब पे बेस्ड है, राइट? So Marx borrowed his dialectical method from Hegel but modified it in a fundamental way. How? While Hegel had applied his dialectical method in the domain of ideas, Marx applied the dialectics to explain the material conditions of life. सर इसमें से क्या इंपॉर्टेंट है जो हमें नोट्स में लेना है? दी हाईलाइटेड पार्ट्स. आपको सिर्फ वन लाइनर नोट्स बनाने हैं फ्रेंड्स, सो दैट यू कैन रिवाइज इट इफेक्टिवली बिफोर द exam, right? So take this highlighted part in your notes, just a bit digression, right? So come back to the slide. So Marx applied the dialectics to explain the material conditions of life, how history is moving on the basis of material conditions of life, on the basis of means of production, on the basis of wealth. जैसे कि हेगल ने बताया था, in the process of movement of history, idea plays a significant role. मार्क्स ने वहीं उस नोशन को कॉन्ट्राडिक्ट कहा, एंड ही सेड दैट नो, इट इज नॉट द आइडिया बट इट इज मैटर विच इज द कॉज बिहाइंड द मूवमेंट ऑफ हिस्ट्री, राइट? इन द टाइम्स ऑफ स्लेवरी कम्युनिज्म, जब कुछ लोग स्लेव्स को ओन करते थे, तब it was a conflict between slaves and the owners which led to the evolution of history. उसके बाद में फ्यूडलिज्म आया, उसके बाद में कैपिटलिज्म आया, उसके बाद में सोशलिज्म आएगा, उसके बाद में कम्युनिज्म आएगा. This is how Marx is saying, on the basis of means of production, on the basis of matter of or the material conditions of life, history is evolving. This is how Marx is denouncing the Hegelian dialectics in very, very fundamental manner. वो उसकी आइडिया ऑफ थीसिस, एंटीथीसिस एंड सिंथेसिस तो ले रहा है, बट जो आइडिया हेगेलियन आइडिया था वो कंप्लीटली एलिमिनेट कर दे रहा है. एंड ही इज सेइंग दैट नो, इट इज मैटर विच मैटर्स द मोस्ट एंड नॉट द आइडिया, राइट? सो hence the Marxian theory of society and history may also called as dialectical materialism, right? जैसे कि हेगल का जो आइडिया है, इट इज नोन एज व्हाट? इट इज नोन एज डायलेक्टिकल आइडियलिज्म, राइट? हेगल का जो आइडिया है, इट इज नोन एज डायलेक्टिकल आइडियलिज्म. So here Marx is eliminating this ideal notion and he is putting his material notion, and hence it is also called as dialectical materialism or historical materialism. Why? Because Marx holds that material and idea are not only different but opposite, right? They are completely opposite, which can be understood in the expound of Marx, who says that idea is a false consciousness and constitute a unity in which material is primary and mind, that is idea, is secondary. For Marx, always the matter will be primary and idea will be secondary. This is so because matter can exist without mind, right? Body can exist without mind, but mind cannot exist without matter. Because historically it has developed out of matter. The brain has developed out of the matter of the body, right? That is why Marx is supporting his idea that no, it is matter which is more prior to the idea or mind or the reason, right? In this way, Marx completely inverted the Hegelian position, which was the other way. Hegel's idea was the prior to matter, but here Marx is completely inverting the idea that no, it is matter which is prior to the idea, and that is why he is criticizing Hegel, his teacher, by saying that Hegel is standing on his head. He have to stand on his feet to understand the real problem of the world. So this is a kind of a premise of the idea of historical materialism. What is the purpose? Right? What is the purpose? As in the case of Hegel, the purpose of dialectic idealism was to show or prove the cause of the movement of history, and in his case it was idea. But here The purpose of historical materialism in case of Marx is to explain the course of human history in terms of changes occurring in the modes of production and exchange. It says that it is in the material conditions of life that is leading a history to move, or the changes occurring in the modes of production and exchange, right? As in his case of historical materialism, he will say when there will be revolution, there will be change in the hands of the ownership of means of production. The ownership will move from what, the capitalist class or the elitist class, capitalist class, to the more what, proletariat class or working class, right? And this is how the change of ownership of resources will take place, which will lead to what, which will lead to a social or idea of socialism. Because of change in the ownership or the modes of production, there is a what, there is a movement in the history from more capitalist society, it is leading to a socialist society, right? This is how Marx giving the purpose behind his concept of historical materialism, starting with primitive communism, right? Primitive communism, the mode of production has passed through the three stages. Just go back to the first historical day of the world. It was what, it was primitive communism, or the time of slaves, the time of primitive man, right? So how it was there, it was basically divided into the three stages. It was slavery, then came feudalism, then capitalism, right? Initially it was mainly driven by the slavery system, where the few powerful people, they owned slaves to do a manual labor because of their physical capabilities. Then came a feudalism, right, where there was a relationship between the class of serf and baron was existing. Then came capitalist class, where there was a class division of proletariat and capitalist. Right, and this is what is leading the history to move. So the Marx concept of historical materialism is beautifully explicated in one of the excerpts from the book, that is Critique of Political Economy. Here he said that the Marx quoted that the general relations as well as forms of state, right? The forms of state like what, socialism, capitalism, right, are to be grasped or understood neither from themselves nor from so-called general development of human mind. It is not the development of human mind that has caused the change in the forms of state, but rather they have their roots in the material conditions of life, right? The material condition that was prevailing between slaves and master, right, which led to the development of what, the communism. The material conditions between the serf and baron, which led to the establishment of what, feudalism. Then came the material condition between proletariat and capitalist, which led to the establishment of a a capitalist society, right? So this is what a material conditions of life which led to the establishment of the forms of state. It is not the mind which led to the establishment of the system or forms of state, but rather it was the material conditions of life that has led to the establishment of forms of state, right? So how does society evolve, right? How does society evolve in the case of Marx? As the society's productive forces develop like animate energy getting replaced by inanimate and energy. For example, initially the oxen, right, or the bull, they are used in plowing the field. But what happened? How does the society evolve? The plowing was done with the tractors, right? Initially the oxen, it was replaced with the modern technologies like tractors, right? They clash with the existing relations of production, which became a fetter on their further growth, right? So the tractor, there is a conflict that happens between oxen and tractors, right? Oxen and tractors which will decide the further growth, right? Thus begins the epoch of social revolution, when the means of production, when the forces of production will evolve or change, it will lead to the social revolution, right? Like technological revolution. from cell phones to now smart computers in mobile phones. That is what led to the technological revolution. Similarly, when there was a forces of production which got shifted from auction or animate energy to inanimate energies like technological tractors and etc., it led to an epoch of social revolution. Right? So this is how he is proving his idea of material conditions which is leading to the change in history. From the animate means of production, now it is a time of more technological driven forces of production, era of technology in simpler way, right? So this is what is leading to a state of social revolution. This contradiction between forces of production and relations of production divides the society into classes, right? So the contradiction is basically what produces a new set of classes. When there will be a technological advancement, there will be a new class that will be a more technological friendly. In today's time, we have a completely new class known as Gen Z. Gen Z. This is the class which are born after 2000. They are very technological mavens, right? They are more prone to technological and their advancements, right? And this is how a new class will develop when there will be two conflicting ideas or two conflicting ideas of forces of production, right? So this is how a new class will develop. That particular class will become conscious of this conflict and they figure it out, right? They will figure it out to what? To make their future more better, right? The conflict is resolved in favor of productive forces and new higher relations of production emerge in the society. So the conflict is resolved in the favor of productive forces. Who are the productive forces? Basically the working class, right? Working class. Why? Because they are more productive. They are mainly engaged in the labor. It is not the capitalist class or the owner class which is engaging themselves in the productive forces. They are only interested in the profits. But here the conflict will be always resolved in the favor of the productive forces, that is labor, right? Because they are the one who drive this entire what factors of production, and higher relations of production will emerge in the society. How the higher relations of production will emerge? Here there will be equitable distribution of resources, more egalitarian society in a way, right? People that is working class will also end up having the ownership of the resources. This is how the conflict or revolution will lead in the favor of productive forces, that is labor class. And this is how the Marx says that workers of the world unite, you have nothing to lose than your chains, right? Chains like what? Chains like exploitation, chains like religion, and etc., right? Workers of the world unite, you have nothing to lose than your chains, right? What is the current relevance of his idea of material or historical materialism? Why we are, or how we can connect his theory? So basically applying historical materialism to analyze social development. Many sociologists have used Marx's idea of historical materialism to understand the shifts in the societal structures, revolution and economic changes, right? The kind of forms of state or political structure that we have in today's world is a manifestation of the material conditions of the people. For example, if today in the West, you can see a major shift in trend from left to right ideology. Why? Because people's condition, that is capitalist conditions, are evolving. It is changing. People are moving from more socialist aspects to more capitalist aspects. And as we know that the right ideology is more associated to the capitalist class, there is a change that can be seen, right? And hence here, how we can use Marx's idea of historical materialism to understand the changing or shifts in the societal structures, right? This is how we can use the Marx idea of historical materialism to analyze social development. And historical materialism remains the foundation concept within Marxist theory of socialism, right? And the major trends in countries like Russia and China can be mainly understood from the Marxist theory, because they are based on this Marxist idea of materialist or historical materialism, right? This is what a current relevance is. So we are done with the lecture. Now let's go back or come back to the question that I have asked in the start of this particular lecture, and I'm hoping that you guys have understood the concept effectively. So the first question here is that which of the following statement is not true regarding dialectics, right? Post your answers in the comment. For sure, I will check it and I will also give you stars. Okay. So be committed to yourself, be honest to yourself, because this is what will ensure your selection in the exam, right? So the options are, it was given by Socrates, it represents rational debate, it can be represented by the equation that is thesis plus antithesis leading to synthesis, and Marx rejected dialectical method. So let's see the answer. Answer for this question is basically Marx rejected dialectical method. This is something which is not true, because we have seen how Marx have taken his idea of Hegel's idea of dialectical method to formulate his concept of historical materialism. The second question is, which of the following statements is correct, right? The option here is Hegel considered history as a dialectical movement of idea. Marx considered idea as false consciousness. Marx gave economic interpretation of history. All of the above. So I think you guys have guessed it right. The answer is basically all of the above. So with this, we are done with the lecture, people. Thank you so much for watching. Also, ensure to show your love by subscribing to the channel, that is UPSC by Naman Raj Gupta. And also like, share and comment if you genuinely learned something out of this particular lecture. Thank you. Keep striving. Keep watching. All the best.